Hi, today my guest is Debbie Boone of Debbie Boone Consultants. She's also the author of Hospitality and Healthcare. She was the former president of the Vet Partners Group. And we talk about so many things today, but at the end, we have a huge surprise because as we talk about collaboration and communication and transparency in the vet practice and including the clients, Debbie has a new group that she's starting that she tells us about at the end. So let's hear what we talked about now. Hi, I'm Deborah Hamilton. Welcome to my podcast, Why Do Pets Matter? 10 years ago, with my iPhone and a script, I recorded the first episode of the Ultimate Pet Resolution Summit, which chatted with experts about conflicts over animals. Our conversations were intimate, honest, and illustrated how disagreements over animals occur and how those disagreements can reshape people's lives and relationships. In November 2019, I started Why Do Pets Matter, a new podcast that continued these informative discussions. I'm so excited to have you here with me, continuing my exploration into a more meaningful conversation about why pets matter to all of us. My guests and I will share ideas, stories, and experiences straight from the heart, unscripted and holistic. From the bravest moments to the most brokenhearted, we will explore how to resolve disagreements over animals differently. One thing I know for sure is I want to have more meaningful conversations that will help all of us unlock that deeply felt human-animal bond that drives the emotions of conflict. Hi, everyone. Deborah Hamilton, and today I'm here with my really dear friend, Debbie Boone. She is just the best person to get in touch with if you're in the veterinary industry and you need help with hospitality or how you communicate with your staff or with your clients. She and I are sort of symbiotic in what we do because I handle a lot of the conflicts that occur and I try to help them pre-pave a more peaceful way. Debbie does the more pre-paving the peaceful way and then helping with the conflicts. And that's how our practices overlap. We really want to make veterinary medicine a wonderful experience for everyone involved, the veterinarian, the staff, and the client. So Deb, welcome so much. And I forgot to add, but I want to add that Deb has a best-selling book on the hospitality. You're going to give the exact name. And she also has a wonderful podcast called The Bend. So Deb, welcome and tell us a little bit more about everything's up to, and then I'll ask you our question. So
sure, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to officially talk to you, even though we talk to each other frequently on a social for fun. But yeah, so the book is called Hospitality and Healthcare, and it discusses how we use hospitality skills to give a great client experience, but we also use those same hospitality skills internally because we should treat each other like our very best customers. And when we do that, we don't develop toxic workplaces. We envelop each other in a culture that is caring and giving to each other. And I also believe that shines out to the customer. And so a lot of times if we have a toxic environment, the client will pick up on that vibe and they're automatically set on edge. And so it goes into a downhill spiral from there. So that's the latest thing. And then obviously for me, I am a practice management consultant who helps currently a lot of new practice owners. My favorite people to work with are the startups, independent practice owners, and help them start their practices on the right path. So they learn good business skills, but they also learn good people skills and leadership skills. And we work on that so that they are very quickly a profitable practice, that they find a great team that works there, and then it helps their practice grow. And I help them with that growth.
I have so much to ask you about that because you and I both know going into a practice that's already established and trying to shift the paradigm is often a challenge. It's not insurmountable, but it's a challenge. But being able to get in at the beginning when there's a clean slate is huge. But as we always do, why do pets matter to you, Deb?
I've been an animal person my whole life, and my goal as a child was to be a veterinarian until I actually got into school and said, okay, I'm done with that. But
Yeah, chemistry killed me.
Yeah, well, I managed it through the chemistry. It was physics that I didn't really care for much. And anyway, but looking back on a whole lifetime of having animals in my life, the one short period of time when I didn't have any, I was a lost soul. I felt like I was missing something extremely important in my life. And even now, when I come in the door and greeted by Tucker, it's just such a lift to me mentally to say, oh, there, he's so excited to see me. Even more excited than my husband. My husband's like, hey, and the dog is like, oh, she's back. Even if I went to the mailbox, right? So
Yeah.
it makes you, it's very good for your ego and your heart to have animals in your house.
Literally and figuratively, because they now do so many studies, the human animal bond programs that they have and graduate work that they're doing, showing the health benefits of animals on people who are young, people who are older. I was just speaking to someone the other day about making sure that we create some space where older people make plans for their pets, my MAP plan, but also that we create some space where older pets can fill that void for older people when they lose their pets. They really don't want to go through puppyhood again. And maybe it's a match made in heaven if, your owner passes and you don't have a new owner. And for other people, their pet passes, but they still want to be able to get up and take a walk or just get up and let them run in the fenced in backyard or whatever it is. It just really fills our soul and creates that karma, I think, that makes everything a little less terrible.
I agree. I agree. Well, you're talking about puppyhood. I mean, have always adopted animals. And so when I decided I wanted another little fuzzy white dog, I reached out to my network, and you were certainly a key component in that to helping me find a retired show dog. And I looked a lot in rescue. Knowing what I know about pet health, all I could see was medical disasters. And I thought, oh no, I just don't have the bandwidth for that. And I wanted a healthy pet, not a puppy though. So finding a dog that was 18 months old was the perfect fit for me. The unneutered part was a little challenging because the housebreaking thing is still every now and then we still have an accident. We're like, okay, do we get new carpet yet? Maybe not yet. Kind of discussions. I just didn't really have the time to go through puppyhood. And even though I think, puppies are great and and I've had puppies before, but it is work. It's a lot of work. So I wasn't up for the work and got a plug and play animal, I thought.
Well, yeah, I thought I did too. My husband wanted a pet, and we've talked about this at length that our husbands are really big helpers. My husband hadn't been and had advised me he hadn't ever had a dog. So I got him a dog who was 5 months old. And I have to say that he really stepped up for the first time in our life together. We've been together since 1976, so since the Stone Age, and he really stepped up. And this dog is his, and I really stepped back so that it would be his. And oh my goodness, it's love at first sight. And he loves her. And all he keeps saying to me is, I can't believe you found her. I can't believe. But again, I wanted health. I wanted something that was well bred. I wanted something that had its head screwed on. So yeah, I went to a breeder of English Cocker Spaniels. And because of my reputation, I was able to get a dog that probably may not have gone to the general public.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I got a beautiful 5-month-old, and we're now proceeding to try to finish her. So that will be a moment. So I want to ask you to clarify a little bit more about the clean slate, because you and I have talked about this a great deal when we're going into a practice, helping them. And I know that we've spoken to a lot of people who are doing different aspects of clean slate and prior paradigms, right, that they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to shift. Some of the mentorship people that we've worked with, Danny Rabwin and Allie, have created these things that are trying to shift paradigms or start off really well. So tell me a little bit about how pets matter when you're going into a clean slate practice with talking to people on how they're going to communicate with their new clients?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that for one thing, you've got to, usually new practice owners are kind of a sponge. They realize that they didn't get this kind of training in veterinary school and they really want to do well. So if you look at it like, okay, I am your coach and you are the star player. So let me coach you how to be the superstar that you really want to be. And we look at it like that. And so the goal always in veterinary medicine, and I've been doing this 40 years, is always how can I take great care of the pet? How can I get it very healthy? How can I do the best for the animals in my world? And if you go in with that as your mission, then it is much easier to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And so I start with those practices with foundation work. Like, why did you start this practice in the beginning? What is your goal for it? What do you see for it in the future? What are your core values? Because you hire people who believe what you believe. And if you are hiring incorrectly, there will always be conflict because they're the square peg in the round hole and they don't want what you want. And they don't see it the way you see it. But then you also have to talk to your team about it because these are the people who get you to where you want to be. You don't do it by yourself. And teaching leadership skills and how we don't micromanage people, how we give them autonomy, but you've got to train them to be able to successfully do that. You know, I feel it's always a very sad thing for me to go into practices where they have assigned manager role to someone who's never done it before and then expected them to just somehow
And with no guidelines,
miraculously
with
know
no
how to do it.
guidelines, right?
None
Yeah.
whatsoever. No continuing education, no education as far as here's what you need to do. Here's your job description. How about that? Let's just start with the job description. And so working with those people, I like to coach the managers too. That's part of the work that I do with practices is let me teach your managers how to do a really good job managing because these are very talented people. There's a reason they got elevated. And a lot of times it's because they are skilled at the front desk, they are skilled at the technician role. And that talent is seen, but then you're almost setting people up for failure if you don't give them tools to work with. So I'm just one of the tools that they get that they can reach out to me and what about this situation or what do we do in this scenario and how do I interview people appropriately and find good people. So I coach all those things. But change is hard, and it's certainly, I've worked with existing practices and some practices that have been open 20 and 30 years. And even then we are able to implement change because there's a willingness and that has
They're
everything
open to seeing things
open to it.
differently, right?
Exactly. Because
And
if
how
you,
we present it, right?
oh, absolutely. I don't go in like some kind of ogre and say, you must do this, you must do that. In fact, I start my conversations with, I have no control. I have no power. I don't work for you and I don't work in your building. This is on you to make these changes. I will coach you how. But if you're not willing to do that, don't waste your money. Don't hire
Yeah.
me. We're going to start out right there. Don't hire me because you have got to get your mind right and I will get you there. But if you're not going to listen, we both don't want to waste our time. Don't spin my wheels, right?
I
And
love I
yeah,
love when you said the micromanaging and the ability to give them some direction because agency in your practice is so important.
mhm.
People need to know that you trust them and that, well, first of all, that you've given them some guidelines so they know what expectations are, what
You have to
boundaries
know
are,
what to do first,
right?
right?
I got to know what you're expecting
What
of
do you
me,
want me to do?
right? And
Yeah,
don't just tell me because telling me, you and I both know that we only retain half of what we hear if we're lucky, and
probably less
you
than
and I
that.
are over 21,
Yes,
less than that.
yes, less than
um
that.
so it's always good to write things down, but then the micromanagers, how do you handle the micromanagers when you're in there trying to work with the staff to give them the power they need to do the job they know they need to do, they can do, while helping the veterinarian or the manager let go.
Yes.
Go with
Well,
God, let go.
some of that is their personality. So a lot of times what I will do is I will do disc profiles on people, and because you see that the people who are the control freaks, those high driver personalities, really struggle to let go of the control of their world. But then you have to say, okay, what are you struggling with? Because there's things that you want to do and you can't do. And I talk about delegation, and I look at delegation like this. I think there's 3 lists. Okay. The first list is I'm going to look at the things that I do that anyone could do right now with no training. They could just take it off my plate. And when I kind of shame managers a little bit, because I'm like, how many of you open the mail? And they'll, kind of begrudgingly raise their hand up in class. And I went, so you're telling me you don't have a CSR or an assistant who could open the mail or sort the junk that comes in and put magazines on your doctor's desk, because this is what we're getting, trade journals and solicitations mostly, and or the invoices that go to your desk, that you can't find somebody who's capable of doing that like today. And they go, yeah, we probably could. Okay,
Yeah,
let's
that
start there.
sheepish. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
got me.
okay, yeah. Because the manager is usually the second highest paid person in the practice, other than the veterinarians, and using their time well is extremely important. So I kind of look at it like this way. What we have tendency to do as a manager is we have this basket, and the basket has our duties in it that only we can do. And that's our third delegation list. Is this is the things that only I can do. It's confidential, it's strategic, it's the things that I have to manage financially for the practice. But in list number 1, is I can give away immediate. List number 2 is if I train somebody, I could give those things away too. So we're making those 3 lists. But something comes along, and we're doing okay. We've sorted these basket lists out, and then something random comes along. And I go, well, okay, I'll do that. Well, now this random thing has now been added to my basket. And then another random thing shows up. And you're like, okay, I'll do that too, because I don't have time to train
Random
anybody. I'll
takes
just
over
do
your
it.
life.
And pretty soon your basket is just overflowing with all this random stuff that you have chosen to do. So instead of immediately picking it up, I want you to start thinking about who could do that well, who would be interested in doing it well. And if I gave them some autonomy and trained them on it, and certainly you're not going to just diminish your entire oversight of them. You're going to keep checking in, because the manager's job is to see that work is done, not to do all the work, see that work is done. So in my experience, I find 2 things happen. When practice owners finally hire a manager, they're so relieved to have all this burden taken off of them that they go, here, do it all. And then they never look. And then, or in the other case, they go like, here, do this, but maybe not that. Oh, but maybe not that. I kind of like doing that, or I think I only need to do this. And so then they're not allowing their
They
managers
diminish the
to
ability of the manager to do what they were hired to do, because
do what they were hired to do. And the manager's very frustrated with that.
or
And
after
then,
they do it, they double check. Like
right. And so you might as well just have done it, right? Because you're taking the same amount of time. So there is the fine line between delegating things and still keeping track of what your team is doing, but not in a obtrusive way where you are smothering them, but just to say, how's it going? Do you need some help? What challenges are you running into? Is there something, knowledge that you need? Is there a tool that you need? Is there something I'm not providing you to get this work done appropriately? That's what you need to be checking. And then, if they're not doing it quite like you do it, what I've found over time is sometimes they do it better because they're seeing it differently. They're seeing it from a different perspective than you are. And sometimes you just have to have that self conversation and say, okay, my way was okay, but their way is better. And I need to talk to myself and move myself out of the picture. Just move on and leave it alone. Right. But that's hard. That is very hard. But that takes that self-awareness, which few people have, and a mental self-talk that says, okay, I am micromanaging this person and their tasks. So I need to convince myself to leave them alone, that they really can do their job. And I have really found over the years that people do it well. Now, I didn't learn that lesson immediately. I was very much in control of my practice, and my practice owner felt like I should have everything run through me, because he wouldn't do anything, just come and tell me, and I would do these things. But I got sick. and I had to be out of work for 6
I was
weeks when
just going
I,
to ask you about
yep,
that. What about if
there's
they,
the epiphany. Yeah, there's the epiphany. So for 6 weeks, I was unable to do any work in the practice except computer work when I came out from under the influence of morphine and was able to start to think a little fuzzy, but still think. I used to tell people I'm running payroll, but you better check this because I'm telling you what, they're giving me drugs.
adding and subtracting may not be my
Yes,
strong suit right now? Yeah.
it's a little fuzzy. I found that my staff was so much more capable than I had given them credit for, and that they had been sandbagging me because they didn't want to make decisions. And if they didn't make any decisions, then they could never be wrong. So I found out that they absolutely could do it and they could make decisions. They were very good at what they had decided, and I would have either done exactly the same thing or was impressed that they had, made an even better decision than I would have. And so I had a little meeting and I said, I'm going to tell you, I'm not taking this stuff back. You owned it while I was
Own it now,
gone.
because you did such a great
You
job.
did a
And
great job.
if
Yeah.
you can do that, and if you can let go, because some people identify themselves with all the work they do and they're the heart of the practice, and yet, as you said, if the heart stops, then the practice is going to fold.
Right.
So really, as the owner of the practice, as the manager of the practice, as the staff of the practice, how do you have that conversation saying we need to all be able to step in somebody else's shoes, or at least
Absolutely.
know where we're going to get somebody who's going to step into those shoes?
Exactly. Well, I can remember very well my boss, who was completely driver personality, very blunt, looked at me one day and said, Debbie Boone, damn it, if you ever leave, I'm coming after you with a shotgun. And I went, Dr. Cobb, if I've ever leave, you will never know I'm gone if I've done my job well, because this practice will run because the people who work here know how to run it.
Right.
And it's not me. I'm just kind of project manager and strategic plan and marketing person, but the people know their jobs and they've all been there a really long time. In fact, one of the things I do brag about as a manager when I was manager was the retention that I had with the staff. And they were there for years. And many of the people that I hired back in 2005 were still working in the practice the last time I visited, which was like pre-COVID, like 2018. So we're still there and working in the practice, and it was still running great. And to this
And
day, I don't think
such
they've had,
continuity to the
yeah,
clients that,
oh, they
because
love
when you
that.
come in with your dog and then you come in with your next dog, you come in with your next dog, and everybody's still there, and everybody is there to welcome the puppy and
Yeah,
then help you say goodbye. And it's a
yeah,
whole emotional thing that
it is. That
creates
we're just
loyalty and
family.
trust.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're just family. And, I loved it because I was there for 19 years into that practice. And so you would see kids who were coming in like 5 or 6 years old, and then they would come back after they had got married with their pets and then their kids. And if you stay there long enough, you're going to see generations come
Grandkids,
through.
right?
Yeah, really. That's right.
Interesting you
Yeah.
said that, because I just visited my vet in New York. So I moved from New York to North Carolina, still trying to find that perfect vet. I think I've got a good one. Perfect would be a stretch. But she said something to me that was so profound. One of my dogs went to Connecticut when I moved, and it was a dachshund. And we got Lap of Love to come and
Mm,
help us say goodbye. And she said, that crushed me. I would have driven up to put her to sleep because, I brought her into the world. And it's part of what I love about my practice is that I see them grow up, and then I help everyone, help them transition.
mhm.
And I never even thought of that when
Yeah.
I thought I was saving her the 45-minute drive to Connecticut, so why would
Uh-huh.
I force a Ren to come up and do this? And yet I never thought of it. So when, my friends have two of my older dogs who would never have reached this age if they lived with me, because I stress everybody. And so they never lived to be 14 and 15. But when they go, I'm going to make sure that she's the one who says goodbye, because she has been there every step of the way for these girls and their mothers and their fathers and their grandmothers and their grandfathers. So it's not, it's a whole family.
Hmm.
But I do want to ask you this question, which of course is one of the questions that I get when conflicts arrive. What do you do with the toxic employee? Because I don't think they come toxic. I think they might become toxic.
Hmm. First of all, you got to figure out why. Why is that? If they didn't start that way, then is there something that's going on in their lives? So many times we talk about the toxicity of the work environment, but I think that for many of my staff, we were the safe haven because the toxicity was out in their families and their spouse and things like that. And so I think understanding what's going on and going back to being curious and say, like, you know what, when something has changed, can you tell me what's going on with you? And then again, are you trustworthy as a leader that someone will tell you things? Because I used to laugh and say my chair in my office was the therapy chair, and I'd heard everything from impotence to abortion. And believe me, more than I really wanted to know sometimes. But yeah, but it was good that I felt my staff had such implicit trust that they felt like they could come and tell me these things and ask for help and me help them navigate through. I mean, not necessarily me helping them, medically, certainly, but to offer support and empathy and, a network of experts that could help them.
Give them the space they need. I love it. You're like my doppelganger, because it's so important when people talk about, because when I teach, and I know when you teach, most people will raise their hand and say, well, how do you fire a negative client or a negative staff member? And I always go, well, if you're doing everything you can to build trust and inclusivity, you shouldn't have to.
Mm-hmm. I will say that there are people, and it's their own inner demons. That's it. It's just not you.
Right.
And it's up to you to decide if you will manage that or not. And some people, for me, I've always been a customer service geek, and it's a challenge to me to manage difficult people. Other people are crushed by that. And me, I'm like, it's a game. I want to figure out how to manage you and see if I can't turn you around. And it's fun after many years of teaching. I used to start just asking for a show of hands. Who else is like me that really gets a kick out of doing this? And there are others among us that really think, yeah, this is kind of a mental exercise for me of my skill set. And others are like, oh, you people are insane if you like to do this. But it comes with experience. It comes with we gain emotional intelligence as we get older. At least hopefully we do. Some people never do, but we do. And there's a point in time when you go, you know what, this client is not worth it. They are constantly difficult to the staff. They take up a lot of time. And that's the other thing that I think we need to pay attention to. There's only so many hours in a day, and there are so many clients who would love and appreciate the time that we could give to them, where these other people are just constantly complaining about everything because that's their nature. Some people just like to gripe, and they have learned over time that the more I bitch and moan, the more likely people are to give me stuff. And I equate it to rewarding a dog's bad behavior. Go, oh, here you peed in the floor. Let me give you a cookie. It's not what we want to do. So I think managing people who are difficult, but also understanding that if it's chronic, it's not necessary. You have other clients who would want that time. And the funny thing, over the years, the clients who have challenged the team, the practice owner will go, oh, but she's a really good client. And I went, let's look and see. And so I will pull up their history, and you'll see that they don't accept 90% of what the veterinarian has recommended, and that they complain constantly. And you'll see, credits given back because they've bitched and moaned about whatever work they authorized, but then said they didn't. And I'm going, are they really a good client? Because this is a reality check. We don't really look to see if they're good or not. And I'm not saying just because people spend money with you that they're not, difficult, but it makes it a little bit easier to take the pill if they're spending $10,000 a year with you. So you go, okay, I might put up with it for that. But if you're spending $50 a year and taking, 20 hours of my time away from clients who need me and patients who need me, then no, I'm going to release you to go find somebody else who's a better fit for you.
And I always, when I'm asked that question, I sit there and ask them to do what you just said. Let's look at what's going on here. Let's ask some curious questions, because curiosity can sometimes answer the question and not kill the cat. And then if really everybody's on board with, Mrs. McGillicuddy's got to go, appreciate and acknowledge that she deserves wonderful veterinary medicine. And after the last year, 2 years, 6 months, whatever it is, it seems as if we're not really providing her what she needs. And we want to appreciate that and acknowledge that she wants something different. And so this doctor, which are, 2 miles from us in either direction, we've reached out to them. They're more than willing to have an interview, take a look at your dog. Maybe it's a better fit, because quite frankly, we want everyone in our practice to feel that they are known, liked, and appreciated for what they're doing. And if for some reason you don't feel that way, and we certainly think that that might be what's going on here, we want to depart friends. We want to be able to say, and this never happens, Deb, that they just give them their file and say, hit the bricks.
Exactly.
So then social media blows up.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I go, God, if you just could say, this just isn't a good fit.
You just don't seem happy with us. We want you to be happy. Yeah.
Yeah, we want you to be happy. We've asked curious questions. You've filled us in. It seems that really there's something else better out there. We've called Dr. A, B, and C. Here they are. And we'd love, to help them transition so that they could be your vet. And it's interesting because I'm going to ask you for the surprise that is coming down the pike, because you talked about the people in the office, and some of the people in the office who are the first line of defense, the CSRs, which is the client service representatives, the ones you say hello to when you walk in, the ones you have appointments with, the ones who, say hello to you. They're like the lifeblood, and yet not necessarily as valued in a practice as they should be. So you and Rhonda Bell have just started,
and Jill Clark. Don't forget Jill Clark.
And Jill Clark, Dr. Jill Clark, right? I'm sorry. Just started a new group, the North American Association of Veterinary Receptionists, and that's rolling out really soon.
It is. It is. Our new veterinary acronym is NAAVR, because we don't have enough acronyms in our world. And so we are NAAVR. We will. So somebody said to me the other day, "Never, that's a horrible acronym." I went, "It's not never, it's NAAVR." That's much better. So NAAVR is the new Veterinary Receptionists Association, and we are rolling it out at Fetch in Kansas City with the first ever Veterinary Receptionist Symposium. So Dr. Jill Clark, this was her brainchild. She is the owner of Ignite, which is an educational platform for veterinary team members. And she has a training that is for CSRs, and their CSRs were finishing, and they go, okay, now we want more. We want to learn more. So she said, Debbie, I'm a veterinarian, and it never occurred to me that this was a career that people would want. There are people who really want to make it a career. They don't want to just get into the back, because a lot of times we assume that people who come to work in the front office are just biding their time until they get to go into the medical part of the world. And my receptionist didn't want to go back there. My receptionist loved the people part and the animal part and the science part of it. So we're perfectly happy staying at the front desk for 32, 23, 19, 15 years and more. So we wanted to support that. Rhonda, I roped in, she laughed, "You voluntold me." I went, "Yes, I did." And I was very smart to do that, because Rhonda is brilliant at social media and marketing and website stuff. So she is working very hard to get our NAAVR.org website up and rolling by Fetch, so we can start taking members. Membership will only be $25. We realize that CSRs are not highly compensated folks, and we wanted to make a really low barrier to entry into this association. It will be a hub of training information for CSRs. They will have their own private community where no stalkers are allowed. So no managers, no practice owners, just CSRs. And we are very fortunate to have had some sponsorship. Care Credit stepped up to be our founding sponsor and helped us get it off the ground, and financially supported us enough to be able to get our website up and association membership website is certainly not cheap. So there's law, right? You're the lawyer, we had to have bylaws, and we had to be registered in the state of Texas, and we had to file with the IRS because we're a nonprofit. So there was a lot of work to be done on the back end, but we have crossed all those hurdles. Now we're ready. We're ready to have veterinary receptionists come together and have a community. We'll have a book club. We'll have mentorship. We'll have a training hub where they can find all things CSR that will be reviewed and vetted by very experienced CSRs and learning facilitators. So we laugh and say, no, shoulder pads and big hair from the 80s is allowed in our training. We want everything's going to be current and up to date. But we've had great response, and the community is consistently, our response is, it's about time. It's about time. So we are very excited to support the CSRs in our world.
And clearly it goes along with why do pets matter, because if the CSRs are welcoming people into the practice, the pets matter, because the CSRs are being trained to help transition everyone from the minute they walk into the door until they leave. And that mindset and that collaboration and that culture is going to be so great. I can't wait to have you and Rhonda and Jill maybe come in and have a conversation on why do pets matter, to talk more about how NAAVR is going to help people understand that pets matter more than we can even begin to know.
Yeah, we really do believe by supporting CSRs and getting them the training that they need, that all ships will rise. And that includes pets getting better care, owners getting better experiences, and practices being more profitable businesses.
And more successful both in the financial realm and in the respectful realm, because veterinarians have definitely lost a little bit of the edge on how people feel about them. And maybe we'll talk about that in another podcast. But really, I'm so glad you're here. You're the best. So make sure people know where they can get you. How can they reach out to you?
The easiest way is just to look at DebbieBooneConsulting.com, and it's spelled DEBBIE, not like the hurricane. We don't want to associate with the hurricane. And all my information is there, and I always have a free 1-hour exploratory call with anybody who wants to just see if they need consulting or if it's a good fit for consulting. And I'm always glad to mentor new consultants too, because we have a lot of great CVPMs and younger people coming into the profession, and I want to support them because I'm not going to do this forever, and I want to leave that legacy behind of great people who are out there proving that veterinary medicine is the exceptional profession that it has been my whole life.
Oh, absolutely. And the support system for veterinary medicine, which you are absolutely, completely the leading voice of reason in that whole realm, especially with your new book, Hospitality in Healthcare. I mean, that's on Amazon. So anybody who wants to read it can get it. It'll be in the show notes. And until next time, this is Deborah Hamilton with Debbie Boone. And I'm so glad you were here. Kiss your pets for me, everyone. Bye, Deb.
Thank you.
The Why Do Pets Matter podcast drops every Thursday and can be found on whichever platform you find your podcast. Subscribe now, invite your friends, and I cannot wait to have you join me in these conversations.